Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Aimee here. I'm having trouble getting started today because I have the two kittens in here and they just will not leave anything alone. Especially the string in my book. So I'm gonna have to take this away and put it somewhere else. Anyway, we have lots of books to talk about. I have been reading a lot and we need to talk about them. So I decided to kind of separate these videos in genres. So we'll start off with talking about some male romances that I have currently read. The litter box dilemma all over again. Okay, great. Moving on. First up is Limited Edition Husband. This is by L. Blakely. This is actually book 4 in the Winner Takes All series, which I have the other 3 books right here. The first one being The Boyfriend Comeback. Then we have Turn Me On and A Very Filthy Game. All these can be read as a standalone, including Limited Edition Husband, but I just thought I'd show y'all the other books because they are all fantastic. But this is Nate and Hunter's story. Nate is a professional football player and newly divorced. Hunter is a producer of, I think, a show kind of like Netflix, but I think it's called Webflix. Yes, he's a British producer for Webflix, aka probably like Netflix. But anyway, both guys are just looking to have fun. Nate really wants to explore his bisexuality. So one weekend while they are in Vegas, they decide to have a one night and no strings attached. But as things will progress in Vegas, they end up getting married. So now they find themselves in like this relationship, and it really becomes a big deal because, like I said, Nate is a professional football player and everyone sees this, everyone knows this, so they kind of have to pull off like this fake little relationship, which leads into a little bit more, and they end up really enjoying each other's company. It was a great story, super cute. I gave it 5 stars, of course, because I just love L. Blakely's writing. I love a sports male romance. I encourage you to check all of these out. I did listen to all of these on audio because Teddy Hamilton. And James Joseph is a great British narrator as well, so he narrates for Hunter. Great story, highly recommend. Moving on to book 5, which is Manhandled by L. Blakely. This is Luke and Tanner's story. Now, Luke and Tanner are both professional football players. Luke is only 28, so his career is kind of getting started, and Tanner is 32, and he's sort of ready to start settling down and thinking about his future. But after an auction for a charity event, Luke decides to bet on Tanner, which will give him a date with Luke, and then that date turns into a little bit more. It was a very short story compared to the other books, but really sweet, to the point, no drama. Loved it. Also read by Teddy Hamilton and Jacob Morgan, another great male romance narrator. Next is Exiled by Jessie Walker. This was beautiful. I absolutely loved this story. Jessie Walker can just write like these beautifully damaged characters and just make this great love story come to life. I don't know how better to explain it. This is Skylar and Nolan's story. This is also quite a bit of an age gap between Nolan and Skylar. Skylar is 18. He's always identified himself as being gay. He has just lots of mental health issues, and his piece of shit parents keep putting him in these like facilities to fix him, meaning like fix his sexuality or in any, which they think leads to his mental health, which no. And then we have Nolan, who is a bit of an alcoholic. He is divorced. He does have a daughter. So he does put himself through a rehab program for his wife and his daughter, because his wife told him he cannot have anything to do with his daughter if he's going to continue to drink. There was an incident that happened that led to an unsafe situation for his little girl. So he does put himself into a like rehab facility. And at this time, Skylar is also at this facility, but he's in the other part for mental health. The groups merge like once a week. So this is how Skylar and Nolan are introduced to each other. And in the beginning, Nolan does not want to have anything to do with Skylar, and he has like a just really big chip on his shoulder, and he's just very rude to Skylar. And Skylar just wants to be friends because he feels like a connection to Nolan. And even though there's a big bit of an age gap, I want to say, and I don't remember how old Nolan is, and I didn't write it in my notes. Oh, he's in his 30s and is a recovering alcoholic. So yeah, a bit of an age gap, but Skylar is definitely an old soul. You can just feel it in his character. Circumstances happen and they do end up having to spend more time with each other, and Nolan gets to know Skylar and just can't fight these feelings that he's having for this young man that he's never felt before in his life, as you know, as far as like being with another man, being attracted to another man in general. So just a very beautiful story. I don't know if this would be like maybe a bi awakening, or just like Nolan's just attracted to Skylar in general, but very beautiful story. Highly recommend it. Like I said, Jesse Walker can just write anything and I will devour it. Loved it. 5 stars, of course. Then I decided to go into the Park Avenue Prince series by Brooke Blaine and Ella Frank. The first book is Infamous Park Avenue Prince. I gave it 4 stars. It was good. I enjoyed the story. This is like a bad boy, good boy sort of trope. So we have Weston LaRue, who is one of the princes, if you will. He's very arrogant and he thinks he can have whoever he wants, whenever he wants. And then we have TJ, who is the dean's son, who is also, or so he thinks, has always been straight. And he's our good boy. So a deal was made amongst the princes that Wes can corrupt the dean's son. So he therefore goes on a mission to try to get TJ to want him. It was really fun seeing the two men and how Wes was trying to get TJ, and in the beginning TJ was just like, oh, okay, yeah, like he wasn't sure what was happening. It was really cute. I had a good time with it. I did try to go on to the second book, but the second book just didn't pull me in, so I don't know if I'm going to continue with this series or not. So let me know in the comments if you've read this series and if I should continue on. Then I jumped into the River of Rain series. This is by C.E. Ricky. I really enjoyed this series, but I can see where this is not going to be for everyone. The first book is Follow the River. This has lots of triggers, so check your triggers and just go in with caution. I'll name a few, of course, homophobia, child abuse, and rape. So just keep those in mind when you go into this story. Now, we're going to be mostly hearing these characters in present, but we'll be getting their backstory, and this is where some of the trigger warnings come in. It's not, there's not, how do I say it? It's not too graphic. And I'm only saying this because I have a problem with rape scenes in books. I can get through them if they're not too bad, but if I have to like start reading it to determine if I can do it or not. But very emotional book. I actually had a really hard time at the beginning of this book because one of the characters I just despised and did not like what he was doing. But then the other character was doing some things that I also didn't get. So I was like, I didn't know how to feel about the book in the beginning. But the more you get to know these characters and their backgrounds, it's their story is a beautiful story. And then once you get into the second book, it starts to make more sense. Does that make sense? Let's just get into it. So, okay, so the first book is Follow the River. So we have Rain. Now, Rain is our character that I just did not like in the beginning. He is a football player, and he is on a new team, being transferred, because I think some other things didn't go down well with the other team. He's sort of a little bit, he seems to be in the beginning a little bit sort of a troublemaker, but you get it the more you get to know who he is. And then we have River, who is the captain of our team. He seems more of like a, you know, the good boy, the goody two shoes, you know, just trying to make everybody fit in and feel comfortable. And he does the same thing with Rain. But when Rain learns that River is bisexual, he has a problem with that, and he starts to lash out at River. And this is where things get a little complicated between the two guys. And the more Rain lashes out, River just wants to try to make it better. Like, he doesn't understand why he's lashing out like this just because he's bisexual. What does that have to do with Rain? It gets to the point where the coach has to pull them aside and be like, okay, you two, which I didn't really understand this part, but he sends these two characters who sort of hate each other to this secluded cabin, the coach's secluded cabin, so they can bond, which I was like, what? Why would you do this? You're like possibly putting these two children in danger. So they get to the cabin, and that's kind of where the story begins on their relationship and how they end up able to get along with each other. It was a very emotional roller coaster for me. I cried, I was mad. It was a lot to take in. So of course, as soon as the first book is done, it does sort of leave you with a cliffhanger. So if you're invested in Rain and River's story, you immediately want to move on to book 2, which is what I did. And of course, I gave this 5 stars. Did I? Did I give it 5 stars? I gave it 4 stars. I think I gave it 4 stars because of the fact of just, I had a hard time in the beginning really liking these characters, and I really didn't get the point of like sending them to a cabin where things could happen. They hate each other at this point. But the story really does begin while they're in the cabin, and that's kind of what made the difference for me. Now book 2 is After Rain Falls. I also gave this 4 stars. I have it in my review. I say I think my heart stayed broken the majority of this book. I don't want to say too much about this book because you really have to read the first one to get what's happening in this second one. But once again, the triggers are still there, and so go in with caution. Read your trigger warnings in the beginning. It's almost like a back and forth love to hate relationship, and it just keeps bringing you on this emotional roller coaster. They keep bringing you on this emotional roller coaster with them, but it's such a good story. Why did it just get this 4 stars? Like, as I'm thinking about it now, like, it made me feel all these things, and usually I give these books 5 stars. So I don't even say. I know that in the first one, it took me a while to get into the story because I was really upset with one of the characters and he was really pissing me off. But that should say something, you know. It's when a book makes me feel like that, that's usually like it's on its way to a 5 star. So I don't know why I just gave it 4 stars. Let's bump them up to 4.5 at least. We do get a happily ever after, so just, you know, keep going. But as I'm looking at the books on Goodreads, there seems to be a 2.5 called Revane. So I need to read this. Oh, it says catch up with River and Rain during the Christmas season a few years into their happily ever after. Okay, so it's just like a little novella. Just throwing that out there if you want to continue it, their story. Although there is more to the story, although it's not River and Rain's story. So that's how I moved on to These Vile Secrets, also by C.E. Ricky. This is not part of the River of Rain series, but this is Roman's story. Roman is Rain's best friend. I would say he's still Rain's best friend. And as they were growing, they grew up together, and when they were growing up, Roman was very much in love with Rain. And so there's that's sort of part of Rain's background. It has to do with Roman, and Roman makes appearances, especially in book 2 of the River of Rain series. So that's how we get to know Roman. So I definitely wanted to know more about Roman because I found him despicable, especially in the second book. So I moved on to These Vile Secrets because I wanted to know more about Roman and what he was about. So this is supposed to be the first book in another series by C.E. Ricky called The Enclave. Basically, in a nutshell, Roman's family is I want to say involved in like this cult. So basically Roman is training to take his father's place when his father is no longer with us. So he has to continue his father's way, or his father's ways, within this cult. I'm calling it a cult. I don't know if it really is a cult. I'm calling it a cult. And they basically have to like breed within this cult. Their firstborn sons are usually the ones that are chosen to continue with this cult. And they go off to train for this cult. So it's a group of them. And of course you'll learn more about that if you do go into this book, this first book in this series. Although there's not, I don't see like a second book being announced or anything. I haven't really truly looked into it, but anyway, so Roman, in this book, Roman is not only training as far as like physical training, but he also needs to take on the role in like the company. And the guy who ends up training him ends up to be someone that he has met before. I don't want to give that away because I feel like that's part of their story. But his name is Hale Calloway, and he hates Roman. He hated him before he even met him. Although he did meet Roman, but he doesn't know he met Roman. Again, I don't want to say too much. But yeah, so it's another like hate to love kind of relationship. But Hale has his own story to tell as well. He has a little bit of a broken past that he has to keep this hard shell on. And he's very tough on Roman in the beginning, but of course Roman, being Roman, is determined to crack that shell and get what he wants from Hale. It's another very good story, very emotional. Again, check your trigger warnings before going into this one, as well as Follow the Rain or River of Rain series. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. My battery light is flashing at me, so we'll cut it here. This will be I of course read more male romances that I want to talk about, but we'll continue on in another video. As always, thank y'all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you've been reading, any good male romances that I need to dive into. Hope y'all doing well out there. Hugs all around from me, and I'll see y'all very soon in a new video. Bye y'all.